Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. Take a look at my evening shot from the 8th floor in my building looking towards Karen. You can probably see the five, they look like knuckles, and that's in fact the Ngong Hills. And I'll go back to the Ngong Hills in a moment and Karen Blixen. Let's just jump to some macro thoughts. This is the Mexican peso via Holga. As I've said previously, the peso sits at the bleeding edge of Trump's trade policies. Mexican president said Mexico will not pay for any wall, demands respect, has ordered steps to support immigrants. Mexico is negotiating new trade rules with the US and is willing to work the new government. So that's more what I would call emollient language coming out of Mexico. I was talking about Bitcoin and why I thought it was going to appreciate this year, although it's down a little bit since the start of the year. But over the last year, the value of the hyper-anonymous cryptocurrency Monero grew 2,760%, making it almost certainly the best performing cryptocurrency of 2016. Interesting piece, Bitcoin lovers thanks Beijing. On average, 97% of all Bitcoin transactions between the end of July and December 31st were performed in the Chinese currency. This week, that number dropped to 63%. Wednesday, 33% was the lowest since December 2013. So the Chinese are trying to put the squeeze on it, but let's see how long they can do that for. Home thoughts. Nature soothes my soul. Ngong Hills. This photo is by Mian Takil Khan, looking at a different direction, but the same Ngong Hills that I was speaking about. Of course, Karen Blixen famously said, I had a farm in Africa, a foot of the Ngong Hills. The equator runs across these highlands, 100 miles to the north, and the farm lay at an altitude of over 6,000 feet. In the daytime, you felt that you had got high up, near to the sun, but the early mornings and evenings were limpid and restful, and the nights were cold. Put up a photograph, a fantastic morning in the Savo. Of course, George Orwell's 1984 has got a lot of traction, and I just got some quotes. He who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. Power is in tearing human minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. History is stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. I understood how. I do not understand why. George Orwell's 1984 is a bestseller again. What the F-facts, the word nightmare is derived from Mare, a Germanic folklore goblin who rode on people's chests as they slept. Political reflections where superpowers could collide. South China Sea looks to be the most likely collision point. Trump moves ahead with the wall, puts stamp on US immigration security policy. On Wednesday, ordered construction of a US-Mexican border wall and punishment for cities shielding illegal immigrants while mulling restoring a CIA secret detention program, as he launched broad but divisive plans to reshape US immigration and national security policy. A draft executive order seen by Reuters that Trump is expected to sign in the coming days would block the entry of refugees from war-torn Syria and suspend the entry of any immigrants from Muslim-majority Middle Eastern and African countries, Syria, Sudan, Somalia, Iraq, Iran, Libya, and Yemen, while permanent rules are studied. Less than a week into his presidency, Trump has moved aggressively to put his stamp on a range of policies, including steps to gut the healthcare system devised by his predecessor, and make clear that as president he is not turning toward more moderate positions than he took as a candidate. really got to be taken literally. Everyone thought he would pivot, including me, from his hardline position. He's executing on those positions. Dan Barker, this is a good photo. Looks like an old master, the baby, the two women clapping, Melania still wearing gloves, the lady gripping the pen. On the 21st, President Trump said, "I am honored to serve you, the great American people, as your 45th President of the United States." So, interesting times, very volatile. Bear in mind that this zeitgeist is sweeping into Europe as well, and that Angela Merkel is caught in the crosshairs, in my view. Mondo Vice, will he or won't he? It's a cartoon from Latouf Cartoons. It's about Jerusalem, and unfortunately, it really will be the equivalent of throwing a match on a tinderbox. Private Eyes, Trump Inauguration special cover doesn't disappoint. Take a look at it yourself. And I like this, Air Force One. Trump continued dismantling Obama's policies by clearing the way for the Keystone XL and Dakota Access pipelines. And he cheered Kellyanne Conway's use of the phrase alternative facts. Holds the most powerful office in the world, but is dogged by insecurity over his loss of the popular vote in the election, and a persistent frustration that the legitimacy of his presidency is being challenged by Democrats, and the media, aides and associates say. Trump's fixation has been a drag on the momentum of his opening days in office. With his exaggeration about inauguration crowds and false assertions about illegal balloting, intruding on advisors' plans to launch his presidency with a flurry of actions on the economy. Sean Spicer has twice stepped into the fray himself, including on Tuesday, when he doubled down on Trump's false claim that he lost the popular vote because 3 to 5 million people living in the US legally cast ballots. If the president's claim were true, it would mark the most significant election fraud in US history, and ironically would raise the same questions about Trump's legitimacy that he is trying to avoid. Spicer repeatedly sidestepped questions about whether the Trump administration would investigate the allegations pushed by the president. Anything is possible, he said. There is this constant theme to undercut the enormous support that he has, Spicer said. Underscoring Trump's habit of stoking rivalries among his staff, he has told people he wants his counselor Kellyanne Conway to be on television more. He cheered the use of the phrase alternative facts in a recent interview as a way to counteract what he believes is the media's inherent bias. Those around Trump are trying to get the cable news consumer-in-chief to be near a television less often, according to one person who has spoken with him. And then, rather tongue-in-cheek, I was wondering whether this investigation into electoral fraud was all because Trump has realized that Melania voted for Hillary Clinton. That is tongue-in-cheek. President Obama steps off Air Force One at Andrews Air Force Base, series of photographs posted by Associated Press. I like this one. The presidential pen awaits the hand of Barack Obama as he speaks before signing an executive order. And then President Obama speaks at the Washington Convention Center in September 2011. The world's richest woman is the L'Oreal heir Liliane Bettencourt. She's worth $36.6 billion. Dow Jones passed 20,000 for the first time. Goldman's contribution alone accounts for roughly 1/5 of the Dow's move since the election that saw it coast past 20,000 on Wednesday. Have a look at this from Zero Hedge to get an idea of who's contributed to that increase. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar, 107.28. Dollar index around 100. Japanese yen, 113.77. Swiss franc, 0.9989. The pound has been on a bit of a tear, 126.41. Aussie, 0.7556. Indian rupee, 67.975. South Korean won, 11.5891. The Real firm at 317.01. Egyptian pound, 18.796. And the rand, about which I was bullish a while back, 13.2573. The pound has depreciated 15% since Britain's June 23rd vote to exit the economic bloc, trading at 126.39 last. It reached 118.41 on October the 7th, the lowest since 1985. It traded considerably lower than that in its flash crash. I'm bullish about the pound. I like the pound shilling, but that's already moved quite dramatically. Dollar index, we're at 100.01, 99.50 is an important pivot. Gold, which caught me offside, but now seems to be coming off the boil finally, 1195.84. I think it's overcooked. Crude oil up sharply, $53.31 in New York. But if you look at the chart, you'll see we've been in this band for a little while, and I'm expecting a break lower. Iron ore extends its New Year's ascent. It's been a stunning comeback for iron ore, and it's led the base metals higher. C_Harjaz Erdogan in Africa, Gulen and trade ties. And Erdogan wants the Gulen-linked schools in Africa to be closed down. Interestingly, in my old house in Mombasa, next door neighbor was Light Academy. So I saw them up close and personal, actually. Yet they are the very educational establishments which are popular with Africa's middle class. They are an inexpensive alternative to French schools. If parents send their children to Turkish schools, it's not because the schools are Turkish, but because they employ good teachers. Africa's middle class want good schools, he said. We are being informed that President Adama Barrow will arrive today at 4 p.m. in Banjul. Gambia's President Adama Barrow was inaugurated in neighbouring Senegal as mediators sought an exit deal for his predecessor Yahya Jammeh. President of Gabon, Bongo, is talking about his 100-day report card. Plenty of pressure apparently building, regime a little bit paranoid there, and Libreville. Corruption Perceptions Index 2016 was released by Transparency International. Take a look. Africa, of course, in the rear. Elections held across Africa. This is interesting, talking about how corruption is a big issue in 2016 African elections. Elections held across Africa in 2016 provide a good reflection of corruption trends in the region. In countries like Ghana, which is the second worst decline in the 2016 Corruption Perceptions Index, the dissatisfaction of citizens with the government's corruption record was reflected in their voting at the polls. South Africa, which continues to stagnate, has witnessed the same. Kabila and Yahya Jammeh's Gambia both declined, demonstrate how electoral democracy is tremendously challenged in African countries because of corruption. Have a look at this diagram issued by corruption_SA to get an idea of Africa. Kenya has not done well. The IMF Executive Board concluded a 2016 Article 4 consultation with Angola. Annual inflation was estimated to reach 45% by the end of 2016, the highest rate in over a decade, reflecting higher domestic fuel prices, a weaker kwanza, and the lagged effects of loose monetary conditions until the first half of the year. Meanwhile, a wide spread between parallel and primary market exchange rates remains, pointing to a significant imbalance in the foreign exchange market. You can say that again. There's been a bit of a shouting match between ZANU-PF and Julius Malema. ZANU-PF called him a puny, struggling person, a shrunken, talkative joke, and a loud mouth, Gucci revolutionary. He's more than that, and he's very, very bright. South African farmers and labour unions say the European Union is selling chicken legs, thighs and wings at below cost, threatening local companies and jobs. EU producers make enough money marketing breasts in the home market that dark meat is sold as a waste product, they say. South African oil share up 5.13% this year. As I said at the end of the year, the Zuma haircut, which began to ebb into the year end in 2016, as investors started to factor in Pravin Gordhan's fight back against rogue policy making. Dollar rand 13.255, bullish about it still, although we've had a nice move in stock, trading stock. Egyptian pound 18.796. Nigeria's outlook has been downgraded by Fitch due to dollar shortages, predictable. Access to foreign exchange will remain severely restricted until the Central Bank of Nigeria can establish the credibility of the interbank foreign exchange market and bring down the spread between the official rate and the parallel market rates, Fitch said. The central bank devalued the naira in June but continued to intervene to keep the currency at about 315 against the dollar, compared with almost 500 on the parallel market. Trading volumes have increased since June but remain low. They were $8.4 billion in December, compared with $24 billion in December 2014. Government debt remains low at 17% of GDP. The shortage of state revenues poses a risk to debt sustainability, Fitch. As I've said before, the fundamental paradox at the heart of President Buhari's government is the naira. Investors are sidelined waiting for President Buhari's moment of epiphany. Nigerian all-share down 2.36% this year. As I said, the new president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, is saying all the right things. Ghana looks primed to move from a policy-making haircut to a policy-making premium. The Ghana Stock Exchange is up 4.59% this year. Interesting developments in the Congo. The central bank injected $50 million in cash into the interbank exchange market to prop up the Congolese franc. It's been under tremendous pressure, down about 40% on a 12-month basis. China and Africa's donkeys. This is the story about how the Chinese are buying up donkey hides. And that made me post this photograph of some donkeys that we found on the road to Lake Magadi here in Kenya a few years ago. Editorial: Kenya toned down political rhetoric. Toxic political pronouncements are on the ongoing voter registration, already causing public anxiety about the August 8th general election. Unless the politicians tone down, they could be settling Kenyans up for divisive campaigns and a contested election outcome once again. Kenyans have every reason to demand that the political class demonstrate their commitment to a peaceful election this time around. Have a look at the pound sterling Kenya shilling chart, about which I continue to be bullish. I think sterling will continue to rebound. Machine guns and rocket launchers in list of Kenya's 43 billion shilling US arms plan. Kenya shilling at 104 last. Nairobi all-share fell again. It's down 7.93% this year at a 42-month low. The NSE 20 is down 10.37% this year at a 2008 low. There are up to 200,000 Kenyans living in the US without valid documentation. One half of our inward remittances come from North America. Coffee prices have so far gone up 9.3%, while the value of tea has grown 6.3% since the beginning of the year. This is 2-year highs now for tea and coffee. Kenya's top stockbrokers by market share, this is by Kenyan Wall Street: Kestrel 20.9%, Redcap 16.7%, SBG 13.8%, Equity Investment Bank 12.7%, SIB 8.3%, and African Alliance 6.6%. Tough times in the stock market at the moment. Once again, I do appreciate you stopping by.